Disclaimer: I am not a communist. I believe in free trade and a competitive market. But the question is, what is capitalism? Capitalism is a competitive market built around private businesses for product efficiency. But is it fair? How can it be fair if the money is only concentrated at the top and it exploits a group of people with harsh working conditions for cheap labor? In this video, we're going to see that since the birth of this nation, capitalism has thrived for the few while oppressing the masses. But also in this video, we're going to come and figure out how to beat the revolving door of capitalism and the number one golden rule.
But if a man doesn't have a job or an income, he has neither life nor liberty and the possibility for the pursuit of happiness. He merely exists.
So even though we big up the Industrial Revolution in school and we learned about it and it was just this great big thing because the Industrial Revolution ushered in products and innovations and new technology like the factory assembly lines, which sped up productions, and transportation, which helped get products from point A to point B faster. Also, the invention of the telegraph, sewing machines, cars, and the telephone. Even though all this was going on, you got to realize that the American labor force was being exploited. It was being exploited because of low wages, no job security, and workman's comp. You can forget about it. If you didn't go to work, you lost your job. You either went to work and worked through your injuries, or you didn't feed your family, and that was it.
100-year Industrial Revolution also witnessed the rise of Gilded Age industrialists such as steel magnate Andrew Carnegie, oil tycoon John D. Rockefeller, financier J.P. Morgan, and automaker Henry Ford, collectively earning the derogatory moniker robber barons after they reaped obscene profits on the backs of unskilled, low-wage laborers who toiled in their factories, foundries, and mills. The period also witnessed a massive shift in worker demographics, as millions moved into fast-rising city slums that were unsanitary and dangerous at best. Factory working conditions were frequently filthy and hazardous for both children and adults alike, where low wages and long hours eventually led to the progressive movement in the early 20th century, ushering in labor unions and an increase in federal and state regulations, making the Industrial Revolution in America both a high and low water mark in American history.
So the Gilded Age was basically where hardball tactics thrived. Hardball tactics, they basically came in and hired fixers. Business owners hired fixers to come in and break up unions that tried to go on strike and demanded fair working conditions. If workers started to assemble, they called in enforcers to basically come in and begin to make heads roll. As steel workers had to perform in these crazy conditions, such as inhaling burning chemicals, asbestos, mold, and lead, and not to mention all the on-site working accidents that happened whenever these tons of steel fell on workers' legs or probably killed them. There was no healthcare benefits or workman's comp during this time. It was basically non-existent.
Dead Steelworks near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, investing millions of dollars in an effort to retool the ailing plant for greater efficiencies, at the same time reducing wages on his 3,800-man workforce. In the course of implementing his business model, he turned to his chairman, Henry Frick, to do the dirty work. Of his Homestead workforce, 725 union workers band together against falling wages and the dangers of their workplace, and when Frick caught wind of an impending labor strike, he ramped up steel production in anticipation of a plant shutdown, leading to an escalating string of accidents under the hazardous working conditions in the plant. In the face of multiple deaths to a now overwhelmed and vocal workforce, Frick pushed back with a notice that Homestead Steel refused to negotiate with strikers, at the same time stating in no uncertain words that working conditions would remain unchanged. In response, 2,000 steelworkers barricaded the entrance to the plant in an effort to block Frick from sending in strikebreakers, obliging Frick to hire 300 Pinkerton guards to clear the blockade. When the Pinkertons arrived by barge down the Monongahela River on the morning of July the 6th.
So post-World War II, there was an economic boom in America. This was considered the golden age of capitalism, but this economic thrive didn't last long because of government regulations, taxes, union contracts, the need for businesses to decide that they wanted to go into more expansion, aka they wanted to get richer. And the only way they can get richer is through globalization, where businesses basically decided that they wanted to move overseas to exploit a workforce over there so they could pay for cheaper labor. And as you know, cheaper labor means cheaper goods. So with cheaper goods, they were able to exploit the workforce abroad while also exploiting consumers back at home. Insane.
Here's the part that many people don't know. In the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, Detroit was the kind of place Americans were flocking to in order to get a good job, start a business, and raise a family. Thanks to its unquestioned economic dominance because of automobile manufacturing, the city could have been considered the Silicon Valley of its day. And for an entire century, Detroit experienced double-digit population growth. In fact, from 1910 to 1930, the city's population nearly tripled from 465,000 to 1.5 million. So, how was it possible for a city like Detroit to go from this over to this in just a few decades? Well, there's a lot of explanations. Some blame the 1967 riots for the decline of the city, but Detroit's population drop had already begun 7 years earlier, suggesting that the riots might have been a symptom rather than the cause of the city's decline. The economic situation turned for the worse as Detroit began increasing taxes in order to pay for an expanded government workforce, at the same time that its leading industry, car manufacturing, was suffering under the weight of very expensive union contracts and an international competition. The high taxes, combined with high crime rates, led many Detroiters to flee the city, and that last point cannot be ignored.
So we all know that currently we are living in the modern gig economy. The modern gig economy consists of Instacart, DoorDash, Uber, Amazon. And we all know about the complaints how even though you can work these jobs for hours and hours doing these rideshare apps and the service direct to you, they are poorly compensated. And I know it should be just a side hustle, but why should you have to get off one job just to work another job? And the simple answer is your labor is the biggest asset. I don't care how big a company can get or how big it grows or what the overhead is for this company. They need bodies to work, and it's just like that.
The Teamsters Union says delivery drivers for Amazon and workers at some facilities have walked off the job, demanding better pay and working conditions.
We want to make sure that every customer gets their packages, but we also need what we deserve.
Teamsters union leaders say Amazon missed a December 15th deadline to negotiate a first labor contract with their employees, who want sick leave, more paid time off, and wages that are comparable with FedEx and UPS.
The customers see the amount of work we do, whether rain, sleet, snow, we're constantly out here.
But Amazon says these workers are not their employees and that they're only seeing protests, not strikes, at a handful of its facilities.
If you made it this far, ensure that you like, comment below, and subscribe. So why is capitalism built the way it is, and how can you win? Capitalism only works if they have the people to do the jobs for less pay. It's built so that if you are poor, you pretty much have to go to these jobs because it's your only option to survive. And it can't be a competitive market, because if it was actually competitive, you would choose the better option. You would choose the job that gives you that pays you well, that gives you adequate time off, that gives you fair compensation if you're ever hurt on the job, or they actually actually provide you job security and promotion. But for them, it isn't feasible. It isn't feasible because companies know that if you were able to decide to up and leave, they will lose their workforce. And also, they still need to be able to produce these products at a low cost. And the only way they can produce these products at a low cost is if they're paying low wages. And the only way they can pay low wages is if they keep you stuck in this revolving door, this trap where you can't get out, where you are living paycheck to paycheck, and you basically have to just get up and go to work every day. So how do you beat it? How do you beat capitalism? The only way to beat capitalism is very simple, and you've heard it time and time again. Live below your means, save your money, don't touch your 401k, and whenever you go into these companies to get hired, and if you see that they like you, they need you. They need you because they need bodies. Ensure that you basically, what's the word? You basically negotiate your contract. Ensure that you're negotiating at all times. Negotiate what you feel your worth is. And believe me, you're worth more than you think to these companies. You definitely are. And also, always remember the golden rule. And the golden rule is whoever controls the gold makes the rules. And you're golden. Thank you.